I'm Katie Moran, an author, poet, advocate, creativity coach, and social entrepreneur. This is the Artistic Spirit Podcast, your place for art, mental health, and spirituality. Today, I'm here with Delia Peterson, founder of the written podcast agency, copywriter, creative nonfiction writer, who is going hard on business, NFTs, and community. She is also community manager at Impact Theory University and the Impact Theory Copywriter. Welcome, Delia.
Thanks, Katie.
I'm so glad to have you.
Yes, I'm excited to do this with you.
So let's just jump right in. We've been in an accountability group together in Impact Theory University, and I have witnessed your journey where you started out as an unfulfilled medical biller and transformed to overcome your fears and limiting beliefs to write full-time and founded your own agency. Walk me through that journey.
Sheesh. Okay, so the journey was clumsy and a little bit messy along the way, but it just started with one showing up at Impact Theory University. And I guess I should say the reason I showed up to Impact Theory University was because I wanted to level up the average of the 5 that I was with, the 5 ideas, the 5 people that I was the average of, and that's what I was looking for. And when I came into Impact Theory University, I found accountability groups and I was like super excited about it, but I was also really nervous and afraid, to be honest. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't belong here. I had so much imposter syndrome. I was just doing medical billing. My story at the time was that I was a single broke mom. I had no help from my kid's father. I just felt like I was the ultra disaster, living at home with my parents and just like floating through life, trying to figure out the best way to make sure that my kids were better off than I was, but just feeling like a depressed mess. That's what I felt like. And then, just showing up to the accountability groups that we were part of and just trying to feed off of the energy of everybody every day. That just kept me going. It kept me like, I want this. Like, I love these people. Like, I admire them. I respect them. And it's like, they just have this energy that just is contagious. And I wanted some of that. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew that I love writing. I would always say I was a writer. But I always used to journal before. I never wrote books or poetry or anything like that. But I was big on always like handwritten journals. I'm going to spell out all my feelings, talk about how much I hate everybody. Just like, it was therapeutic for me to write. So, but I also was very good, like in college writing. Like, I was nominated for English honors and I love research and I love just academic style writing also. So yeah, I just kind of went through this journey, like just clumsy, just open, willing to explore. And I just had a hint that maybe writing was kind of at the core of something that I could follow a trail for, because I really didn't feel that I had many other skills or value to bring to the table. So I don't know. I just stumbled through and looked in some doors and said, oh, I kind of like this. Oh, I like the vibe of that. And yeah, I just kind of went with the flow, if I could say that, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, well, you have so many skills and I'm so glad that you chose to develop them more and share them with other people. So what would you have to say to someone who loves writing and doesn't know the practical steps to start freelance writing or copywriting?
I would say just start somewhere, just start doing something. When I first started, the scariest thing for me was to put a blog out on Medium. I remember posting like maybe 2 or 3 pieces I posted on medium.com. And well, I guess I'll backtrack. I committed to doing the hard things, the things that made me the most uncomfortable. Sharing my writing was very, very, very uncomfortable. I think most writers identify with that. Like, it's vulnerable. You feel I don't know. It's almost like feeling like you're standing naked in front of somebody and just exposed. It's like, I don't know. It's like, oh my God, they're going to actually read what I'm thinking, or they're going to see how I think and how I like my thoughts. It's like your inner thoughts sometimes. So it's kind of scary that way. And I started by just committing to doing the hard things. Being committed to doing the hard things forced me to say, okay, I wrote this thing. I don't know that it's actually really, really good. I was proud of it. I felt good about it, but it was also very scary, like nerve wracking. Like my heart was palpitating, just trying to push the button to like post and publish it. So when I did that, I also did it with the promise of I'm trying to get better at what I'm doing. I want to enhance my skills. I thought possibly journalism avenue, some kind of way, may have been something that I could pursue or look into. So I felt like, well, let me find something to practice on. So like if you're trying to get into this space, I think if you want to be a writer, you have to just put your writing out there, and you have to ask for the feedback and not be afraid or offended by the advice that people give you. Sometimes it stings and sometimes it hurts, and sometimes you're just frustrated with yourself, like, oh, like I suck. But it was that was the only way that I knew to get better and to get over the fear of actually sharing. I like that Seth Godin talks about writers, and he's always like, show me your bad writing. Well, I've got plenty of it. And once you get it out there, it's a matter of figuring out, well, what type of writing do I want to do? And then just trying to follow, like, well, who else is doing this type of writing? What is it about that writing that I like? And I don't want to do anything that doesn't make me happy or feel good. So when I would do the writing, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, but when I started considering that maybe I could write professionally, like seriously, like I started taking myself a little more serious, was when I was writing blogs for podcast interviews that I started doing for my own podcast. And when I started doing that, I was like, I noticed that to get into a state of flow was so easy. I could lose myself for hours, and I just like enjoyed it. I felt alive, and I was just like, this is amazing. And just putting something together that nobody would expect, that just felt genuine to me. It felt like my style. I could add some of my humor into it and share it with people. And I got positive feedback from it, but I was always trying to get better at it. And that's when I first started taking myself serious. But I was committed to doing the hardest things. And that eventually led down a trail of how I ended up writing for Impact Theory. But I think that if you want to be a writer, just practice, put yourself out there and look for opportunities to write as much as you can and share as much as you can. And just know that how you write today and the work that you put out today is not the end result of your life. It's a process. And this is just where you are in that process.
So how did you learn copywriting?
I learned copywriting, crash course on myself through YouTube University. I went through a lot of classes through Skillshare. There's a copywriters class that I absolutely love. I still look at her courses. Her name is Ruth Claus. I think Clowes. I think she's in the UK. But I really liked her copywriting classes. I like the way she explained it. I just started deep diving, like everywhere I could think of, even classes on, oh my God, what was it? Not Teachable. What was the other one? Oh my gosh, I forget the name of it. Not Teachable, not Coursera.
uDemy?
Yes, uDemy. That's the other one. And if it was free, I was taking it. If I had to pay for it, I was taking it. I was just trying to invest here and there, but just starting to learn more and more and more. And then as I started following other copywriters, I was looking in copywriting groups on Facebook. I looked at copywriting groups on LinkedIn. I started exploring more. And I started realizing that copywriting was literally every single thing around me. When I was driving down the street and I looked at a billboard, I was like, shit, that's I was like, oh, that's copywriting. When the day that I realized my inbox was literally school of thought on copywriting, I had a field day literally in my inbox for about 3 hours, 3.5 hours. I went through my inbox and I went through all my promotions. And I was like, what makes me want to click on things? What am I drawn to? And I started looking at the things that I was actually, people that I had given my email address to get a free download. And I started looking at things just differently. And I started to see the world differently through the lens of copywriting. And I was like, it is literally everything. And I just let myself get a little obsessed and a little compulsive with it, to the point where I was like, okay, I'm on a mission. I want to be a better copywriter. I have to figure this out. because I really wanted to get away from medical billing. I wanted to get away from my full-time job. I was tired of struggling, but I also was tired of like just not having a fulfilling life. It wasn't that I worked for a bad company either. Like the company I was working for, it was the first company I worked for that was like, they were employee centric, and they had a lot of appreciation for their employees, and they were just decent people to work for. It was a decent company to work for. So I had no complaints about the company. I just felt unfulfilled. I didn't feel happy with myself, with the work that I was doing. I think secretly, or not secretly, but like maybe unconsciously and subconsciously, I just felt like there was so much more that I could be doing, that I could actually go for it. I felt more capable than what I was living. I knew I wasn't living at my capacity. So it was just a way to say, okay, I think I need to like just really pursue this and find out what it is. So I just took the chance and learned copywriting literally every way I could, and just to the point where it's just almost all consuming. About like every part of your day you're looking at it.
Yeah. And I think what's so powerful there is that you really talk about this idea that you can be in a good situation and still not feel like you're living your purpose.
Yeah.
And I recently read in Radical Confidence about Lisa Bilyeu's book about how she felt like she was ungrateful because she had a happy life and she had all the things that she felt would make her happy, but she didn't feel fulfilled. And I'm really speaking to the person who's listening to this, who loves writing, who just feels like they can't put themselves out there to do it because they have to take care of the responsibilities. Like you can take care of your responsibilities and do something on the side. You can find a way. And I know in Delia's case, she started freelancing and copywriting before she quit her 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, it was hard. I was, for the people that are listening, I guess, that are in that state of mind. I also follow School of Thought with Goggins. I despise excuses to like, no, you know how I feel about excuses. I can't stand them. As soon as I hear myself coming up with one, like I feel like I want to vomit in my mouth. Like I just can't stand it. And a lot of times we give ourselves outs to why we're not pushing and doing something that we really want to pursue, whether it's because we're afraid, we're fearful of succeeding, maybe we're fearful of failing, maybe we're just like, oh, I just don't have the time, oh, I wish I had that ability, or I wish I had that skill. We have all these things going on. But if you really, really want it, and you think about how much time you waste doing things that don't add value to your life, you can find time and find a way to do it. Like I work full time. I have 2 kids. I have a 17-year-old. I have a 10-year-old. I have 2 parents who are elderly. I deal with a lot of toxicity at home from day to day, sometimes worse than others. And, you know, my father's health is declining. I have a lot of things that are going on there. And yet I still made time for what I felt was mine. It was for me. It was so personal, and it is so personal, because it's like, it wasn't just about making money. It was about, this is something like I lose myself in, and I'm excited to get better at doing something. And it's like, it's the best feeling, because I hadn't felt like that in like years. Like I had decades. And to have excuses like, oh, I can't do this, it's like, I have to call BS on it. Like if I can find time, at one point before I left my job, between my full-time job and writing for Impact Theory and running groups as a group leader and all of these things that I had going on, I was literally putting in like 80 to 90 hours a week for months. And it got to the point where there was a tension between my full-time job and what I was doing on the side. And the tension, something had to break. I felt physically sick clocking into my full-time job, not because they mistreated me, not because it was a terrible place to work, but because it just went against everything that I valued, everything that brought me joy. And on the other side, I was like, this is everything that's fulfilling and giving me purpose and meaning. And I'm excited to it. Like I just can go for hours and days. Like I forget to eat. And this thing over here is just like, is this what I'm really going to do? I'm really going to put myself through this misery just to pay a bill. the bills are important. I have two kids, both of them are in Catholic school. The bills have to be paid, but at the same time, like, you can make time. I don't care if it's 2 hours. A lot of days it was just getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning so that I had maybe 2 to 3 hours before I woke my kids up. A lot of nights it was, okay, the kids are out of the way by 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm just up until maybe 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. So in between, whatever could happen is chaos. That's fine. I'm still sneaking in things here and there, but either the beginning of the day or the end of the day, something has to be mine. And I need that time for myself to grow as a writer, as a person.
Yeah, I think that's so important, because you started before you had a general sense that like you're ready, and you did it out of passion, and it was something that pulled you. And there weren't any forces pushing you to do it. Like, it was your internal belief that this was something that was important to you, and that it was something that felt special to you. And I think that's just so powerful, because I know on so many occasions, like, if I tweet something about writing, people will have like really negative beliefs about it, like whether they feel like their books aren't selling, or they feel like they're not making enough money as a writer. I think like this is such a powerful example of someone who has put in the time and the work and has taken care of the responsibilities. And like, you don't have to like turn this into like all day, every day. Like, it's like you can kind of like make sure that like you are stable in your life, and also push yourself to do what you love. And I would just love to hear, how did you manage having enough energy to do that every day?
I have no idea. I think the energy came from my excitement to develop and grow on the side that I was excited about. That was the copywriting. It was being involved in so many different groups, starting a lot of groups. It was the conversations I was having that were exciting to me. It was the people. I came to level up the average of the 5, and I leveled that. It went up so high, I got dizzy from the height. Like, I felt dizzy from the height that I was at. And I'm like, I still felt, I was still struggling, and still do continue to struggle sometimes with feeling like, I don't think I belong in this room. I don't think I belong at this table. I don't know why these people are allowing me in. I think they might find out, like, oh my gosh, they might find out that I don't belong here. But then I look around and I'm like, but if I really think this highly of them, and they invited me to sit down with them, and they invited me into the room, well, maybe I'm the only one who just can't see something in me sometimes. And I do belong, and I should be here. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be there. Like, I'll be damned if I drop the ball. There's no way that I'm going to like just walk. I can't be like, the thought of like walking away at this point, how far in, and it's only been, May was 2 years. This month has been 2 years since I came into ITU. The thought of walking away at this point, like, oh, I could just drop the ball today. Everyone's online. It's all remote. People are all over the world. There's no one physically here in Philadelphia with me. I could just walk away. But the thought of that like makes me sick to my stomach. Like, I feel like a part of me would like just crumble apart. Like, no, it would be such a drama queen scene. I couldn't do that. But I do like that in Lisa's book, she talked about that, because it's like, am I saying I'm dissatisfied? It almost makes you feel ungrateful, but it's like, no, I'm grateful for everything that I have in my life, toxicity and all, like, cause I still love like the people in my life, but I can still strive and want for so much more, and I can do it.
Yeah, and that's so important to remember. So if anyone's going through that, I would encourage you to really let that sink in and ask yourself, how would you go about your day if you let yourself feel like you have a place at the table?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And let the energy like just guide you from like just being excited about something. I like the things that we like when I was clocking into work for something that I didn't get excited about, it felt like such an energy suck. It was just so draining. I was just mentally like, oh, here we go. Let me clock in. Your heart's not there. Like you're just so out of it. But when it's something that you're excited about, if you're a writer and you're writing, writers write. Like that's part of life. It's like breathing air. You got to write. So yeah, I think that should be enough excitement and energy. You just have to like cut all the other excuses out, all the lies that you're telling yourself. They got to go.
Yeah. So speaking to someone who is in that place where they want to either start freelance writing or copywriting, what would you say to someone who feels like their self-limiting beliefs are stopping them?
I would take time and write about it. That's for one.
That's awesome.
A lot of it in the beginning, I wrote through so many of the thoughts and feelings that I had. At one point in the beginning, I literally wrote down every disempowering belief I had, everything that I was saying to myself that wasn't empowering. And I didn't think about it. Oh, let me write down disempowering beliefs. I just wrote down, what is it that I'm saying? I just wrote down, what is it that I'm saying about myself? What am I telling people when I introduce myself? Oh, I'm a single mom. Oh, the struggle's real. I'm broke. It's hard. Kids, dad ain't help. Like I wrote down all the things that I actually know that I've said to people about myself. And then I wrote down things that I think about myself, and I didn't label them. This is disempowering. This is not, I just wrote it all down. And then after I wrote it down, I went through it with the lens of, is this disempowering or is this empowering me? And I literally went through every single one. And if it was disempowering, I said, well, what would be the antidote for that? What's the empowering belief? Like, rather than thinking of myself as I didn't think of myself as a victim, but what I was saying victimized myself about me. So I'm like, well, rather than saying it this way, how can I spin it and say it in a way that's more positive? So I think that when you're dealing with like all of these limiting beliefs, one, you have to be brave enough to say, F it. I just don't want to hold on to it. And I'm not claiming it for myself anymore. And that by itself is scary because we don't think that we have the power to do that, but we do. You don't have to hold on to those things. Like there's so many things, like when I think back on my 20s and my 30s and my teens, like I was told I was too loud. I was told I was too hyper. And I was told these things that I started that made me uncomfortable about me. And I started trying to live like to conform myself into this little box because that was the way I thought everybody around me would feel more comfortable, but I wasn't comfortable. And I just think a lot of people do that. We look and see, like, just like little kids, it's like we look around and we see like, what are the behaviors that people don't like a 2-year-old. And we're like, oh, mommy doesn't like it when I do this, or mommy doesn't like it when I do that. So you correct your behavior, you self-correct to say, I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want them upset with me. So you change your behavior. I've changed my behaviors to make others comfortable. And you have to realize that that's what you've done. And allow the part of you to come back alive that wanted to be alive for all these decades, all these years. Like I've just wanted to be alive. Not to say I just wanted to scream to the top of my lungs and be loud and be super hyper and crazy, but to say that's my comfort zone. And that's, for some reason, if that's the gift that I was given, then why should I suppress it because you're uncomfortable with it? Maybe I just don't need to be around you. And that takes a lot of bravery, and it takes a lot of courage to say to somebody you love is holding you into a confined space that you don't need to be around anymore, because I can't stay there anymore for you. It feels like you're being selfish to walk away from that, but it's not selfish. It's bravery, and it's standing up for you. And I have kids, so I have to stand up for me so they can see how to stand up for themselves, because I don't want them to do that. But if they don't listen to me, then that's a problem. And we'll handle that now. We'll beat them into submission though.
Yeah, I know Delia, so she won't be beating her children. No. But I'd love to hear about the podcast you started, Between the
Mhm.
Highlights. What were your takeaways from hosting Between the Highlights?
My biggest takeaways was that I love talking to people. I love getting to know their stories. But I was really excited to elevate people and to take what they shared and to bring it into a blog form and a long form and say, this is what makes this person incredible. These are like the key takeaways and the knowledge that they're sharing. And then this is how I can like elevate their message even more by adding in, additional resources or things that just elevate their message even higher, increase their credibility. I just like being a cheerleader. That's what I learned. I like being a cheerleader for people. I like elevating their message, but I really enjoyed writing. I enjoy the whole process of writing and putting it together. I think that's why I started thinking of it as creative nonfiction writing, because it wasn't like fictional writing, but it was also creative to like, I don't know, just figuring out how to piece somebody's story together in a way that's interesting, that complements them. That was my biggest takeaway. The biggest takeaway was running away with that bit of knowledge that it's the writing piece for me. And when I realized it was a writing piece for me, that's what I ran away from and said, okay, it's not necessarily the podcasting, it's the writing. And I noticed that a lot of other podcasters wasn't doing it. So I was like, maybe I could write for other podcasters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that really started you on your journey. And I love how all of it really like fits together. Like I think of that quote about like all the pieces falling together. Even if you feel like everything's falling apart, like it's the pieces falling together. And I love that about your story. I felt like everything that happened like led to the next thing. And like at every step, you have to like overcome your self-limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome. And like you really did. And I just love like watching you like go to the next level and what you learn and what you give back. It's just so beautiful.
Thank you. I think part of it is just like, go with the flow, be water, my friend. I was thinking of Bruce Lee. It's like, just adapt and flow. Like in the beginning, I don't know if you went through this, but I think like in the beginning, it was like standing on the sideline and thinking, I need clarity. I need to know my passion, and I can't move here until I have those things. And I was like, man, I'm just going to sit here with like paralysis because I can't do anything. Because I'm like, I was literally like, is the passion under my bed? Is it like, in a book? Like, where am I finding it? And it wasn't until I started doing things, and it was like giving myself permission, just try it. If I didn't start posting the blogs on Medium, I only posted 2. It wasn't like I did a ton of them, but if I didn't start doing that, if I didn't start asking for feedback, if I didn't think like, oh, how could I elevate others? How could I add value to other people? The idea for the podcast when it came to me. And if I didn't start thinking like, why don't want to just really question them? I want to question them and I want to elevate them. How can I elevate them? Oh, you know what? This is an opportunity to write. It's an opportunity to practice research and reporting. And I can use this to give me content to write about, because that was another problem I had. I didn't have anything to write about. So I was like, well, what am I going to do with that? So it's like, just allowing pieces to fall together and then like just being adaptable to flow. I wasn't rigid, like, well, this is the path I got to take. I got to start with me. My idea and thoughts of what it could be has changed like 100 times and it's still changing. So yeah, I think that's how the pieces fit. Just go with it.
Yeah, I love that so much. And knowing that you really live that and I've seen you like actually bring that to life and embody those values.
Thank you.
So we've coached a program together, Bookworms to Butterflies, where we walked a group of people through the mindset of becoming an author to overcome limiting beliefs and publish. What was your biggest takeaway from teaching that program, and what limiting beliefs did you have to overcome to lead that group without coaching experience?
The biggest takeaway I have from that was that you just have to let people have their journey. Like you can't have an idea of somebody else's journey for them. you just have to hold space for them to figure out their own journey. And that was like new to me. That was so new, because I'm like, I want to be a problem solver. I want to help give you the problems, and not give you the problems. I want to help you find answers to your problems and solve them. So that was the biggest takeaway. And just watching other people's journeys like unfold. It's like, you can just give them just a little bit, like just giving somebody just a little teeny nugget, a little bit of support and a little bit of space to open up goes so far. Like MJ actually published her book. That was just like amazing to see. It was in her time, it was on her rhythm, and it was in her way, and it's so authentic to her and her voice, and seeing the things that she did. And you know, Sarah's going to still publish that book. Sarah's still going to publish that book, but just watching her, you know, understand that people have to step back from their journey and live their journey sometimes before they finish writing. It's just, that's another piece that I learned. Yeah, I love the coaching of the program. It was fun coaching it with you, because it was like good cop, bad cop. And I want to say Katie was a bad cop, but it was really it was me.
I don't think anyone would believe you.
No one would believe you. You were so supportive and so encouraging. And I'm like, man, screw that. You got excuses. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
You need to ship up. So yeah, I think that part was fun, but yeah, just learning different ways to support people. And I actually, believe it or not, more than a few times when we were doing the program together, I got to sit back and witness you and your coaching and your style of just like, you just bring so much wisdom to people. It's like, how old is she? Is she a granny in a young body? Like, she's somebody's granny that's trapped in this young soul. Cause like, honestly, you would just bring so much wisdom to, and different like perspectives. Like, you just had like this great perspective of like a person's situation. You just ask really good questions. So those are the things I enjoy a lot. But it also helped give me more patience and compassion for, not compassion, because I think I'm compassionate. I think more so along the lines of like patience and just different like a gentleness to dealing with people where they are in their journey, and not wanting to like literally drag them over to the other side. Because like, I get a little rough sometimes, or I've been a little rough around the edges.
Well, you know, you can't rush a butterfly out of its cocoon. Yeah, so that was such a fun time for me, just like learning from you too, and seeing how you really have such clarity on what the truth is, and you deliver it in a way that people can see it for themselves. And I do think that's a very tough skill to develop, because so much of the time when you tell people where they are, or you show them their excuses, they really back off, like, and it makes them more fearful, and if they feel like it's validating their limiting beliefs. And I think you did it in such a way, like you said, with patience, and everyone trusted you. And I think that's so important, that you brought that to it. So I would say you as a coach is something that's so phenomenal, and you bring such a great energy to every session. And I love how you really help people with the idea of clarity. And I think I find it just so powerful that at the start of your journey, that's what you were looking for.
Yep, definitely was. Yeah. And I never wanted to identify as a coach. That's the funniest part. And then I took that principal's assessment, and like the lead thing was coach. I was like, no way.
I see it. Sarah didn't want to identify as a coach either.
Yeah, I was like, I'm totally in denial here. But I think like with the truth part, it's because I want people to be truthful with me. I don't want anyone to just just be like, oh, you're great. You're doing great, sweetie. Like that drives me crazy to think that somebody's not being honest and just telling me where I'm at. So I just try to be honest with people, but I always come from a place of love. If I am not in a place of love, I will not say anything. I'll just zip it up and put it in my pocket. I won't say a word, because it's like, if you can't speak in love, I don't think that the truth lands well. And it doesn't mean like be brash and be an asshole. Like, oops, sorry. But it, it just means just being honest with people. And I try to be honest with people and get them to see the humor behind it too, because I can't take anything serious. So I'm always laughing about stuff, but I like to laugh at my own, my own things. So laughter is medicine. And I laugh my way through my pain. I laugh my way through my failure. And if I'm helping people, I'm going to laugh my way through it with you sometimes too. And you'd be like, this is so inappropriate. Sometimes I worry. I'm like, Katie's over there like, I don't know why we're
No, I do know I'm gonna have to click that explicit button for this episode though.
Oh, too?
It's gonna have the E next to it.
Oh.
So tell me about the masterclass you have coming up.
Yeah, so the masterclass, it's helping podcasters grow their channel on YouTube. Just to maximize their business. So I work with podcasters that are entrepreneurs, they're coaches, they're solopreneurs, they're in business, they have a product or a service. Majority of them have services. And podcasting is a marketing tool. It's a way for you to increase your credibility, to spread your message, and to add value to people that you're looking for. So I love supporting that community of people. I work with a lot of female podcasters that are in business, and just helping them like also maximize YouTube as a platform and as a different channel. I personally love YouTube because my copywriting experience started with writing for YouTube. So not for YouTube, writing for Impact Theory for their YouTube channel. So that's where my experience started from, and being able to work with their team and just working on my skills, learning SEO, learning copywriting, all these things, like just garbling in my head. I've learned so much of it that I'm like, I don't know why podcasters are not taking advantage of it. So the 6-week masterclass is just to help you do that. It's to help you look at your titles, your thumbnails, your description box, like how are you actually wording the descriptions for your episodes, and just realizing the value that YouTube isn't as scary. It's not as bad as you think it is. Because a lot of podcasters I've worked with, they're like getting, thousands of downloads a month on Apple or Spotify. Mm-hmm. But on those platforms, you can't see your audience necessarily, where you can actually communicate with them. You can communicate with them on your Instagram, but on YouTube, they can see your audio, they can see your visuals, they can comment, you can comment back to them, and you can give them links and actually, I think, engage a little better. So I don't think it's just for the bigger channels and the bigger podcasters that are out there. I want to help podcasters that are just trying to connect with people do it better. So that's what the 6-week masterclass is for.
That's awesome. And you have another offering because that's a select group of people. You have another offer coming up soon that's going to be for the public.
Yes, it's not, I don't have a date set for it yet, but it will be towards the end of June. I like to keep the classes small, no more than 5 or 6 podcasters at a time. I think having a smaller, more intimate group is easier because you can mastermind together. And that's kind of like my roots is in terms of being in accountability groups and being a group leader. It's like the mastermind is like everything. In Impact Theory University, if I could say that, it's like Tom Billy was like half of the attraction to get in, but it's the connection with the other people that it just made all the world of difference. So I think with the group that I'm working with right now, it's them being able to look, they're in different niches, they're in different genres. So it's not like anyone's in competition with each other, but being able to see like, oh, okay, this applies here, and being able to give each other feedback. I think that's a great title. I don't think that's a good title. I think if I was attracted to this, I would think of it this way. So small groups, next class will be in the end of June, and I can share that with you.
Awesome. That's so awesome. I'm so excited for it. Well, thank you so much for today. Any last words that you want to leave any listeners with?
If you're on the fence and you're trying to become a professional copywriter or a professional writer, I just want to say, be brave, be courageous for yourself, and show up. Like, you can't make a world of difference on anything if you don't show up. And the last thought I would say is, I always like to say that the world is waiting on you. They need what you have, but no one's going to miss you if you don't show up. They'll never know that you were there. So it's up to you to like actually step up. Don't be a chicken.
I love that. Thank you so much.
I actually clucked on your podcast.
Yes, I will use that as a soundbite.
Yes, please do.
This is what the episode is about.
It's about chickens clucking. I'm like, no.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.